Hi girls, um, welcome to the week. Hope you enjoyed your Monday off. What we're going to do this week, girls, is really in preparation for the end of year. So decisions have been made around the end of year and exams. Normally, if you were in school, you would have summer exams for the last week of May before you finished up at the end of school. So we had decisions to make on how we might do that this year, considering you're not in school. So it's very hard to set an exam that way. So what the science department has decided, and this also comes from senior management, is that what we're going to do is we're going to have a 70-30 split. Okay, so 70% of your mark is going to come from tests that you carried out in class with me before March the 12th. So an average of all of your marks that you've gotten with me since the beginning of the year up until when we finished normal school. Okay. 30% then is going to come from what's happened from March the 12th to the end of this year. So 15% of that will come from how you've managed your workload, whether you have submitted your assignments on time and to me, whether you've engaged and commented on stuff. So if you're missing assignments, you can message me and say, Miss, I wasn't able to get online. Can I submit them to you now? And you have 3 weeks to do that, girls. Okay, so you have till the 26th of May to submit any of the assignments that I have assigned that you have not done because you have not been in contact. Okay, and I'd ask girls if you could send messages because there are a few girls who haven't contacted me at all. So when you get these assignments, could you send them a text message and say, here, look, Miss Masterson's actually saying that you can still submit. And I will only take a small percentage off for it being late. Okay, so I'll take a small percentage off, but it's a lot better than me writing home saying actually that she lost all 15% because she never did any assignments. The last 15% then is for a final project. So you'll see on screen, girls, it's a science investigation writing frame. So we're going to have a trial run this week. So we're going to do a trial. I'll have a look at them, come back, give you a little bit of feedback, and then you're going to do one next for the final 2 weeks of term. So that's from May the 12th to the 26th. You'll have 2 weeks to carry out your experiment and write it up, and you can do as you please, and I'll explain to you next week how you do that. Okay, but for this week we're going to take a very simple experiment, and the aim is not to make the experiment hard or challenging on you, but it's to see, can you write up the experiment? So all year long we've been practicing writing up. We've been using words like hypothesis, predictions, reliability, variables. We've been using those words in class every week, and we've slowly built ourselves up. So 15% of your mark is going to go to see how you do this. And it's not about getting the right answer. It's not about doing the experiment the right way. It's not about doing it in any specific way or being real fancy about it. It's about, do you do a simple experiment? Can you write it up and can you explain to me and communicate with me what you've done? Okay, so we take a look down here, girls. The first bit is planning. So the aim. And for this week, the aim is going to be the title. And your title this week is, will the ice float or melt? So the question here is, will the ice float or melt? Okay, so that's what we'll go in here into the aim. Your prediction is up to you. Okay, so I'm going to explain what you're going to do in terms of the experiment. It's going to be very simple. I want you to just get a glass of water. I want you to fill it to the brim of water. It can be warm, it can be cold, it's up to you. Okay, I want you then to take one ice cube, any size, any shape, whatever you want, and I want you to lower it very gently into the glass of water, being careful not to knock the table or knock off the side of the glass, and just let it. From the moment it starts to settle, I want you to start the timer, and I want you to watch what happens to the water in that glass. So your question is, does the ice float or does it overflow? So will the water overflow out of the glass? Will there be a bit of a spillage? And I'd ask you to put a little piece of paper, paper cloth or something in underneath it so that you're not making a huge mess, okay? Will the water overflow? Or when the ice melts, will the water just stay all in the glass? What's going to happen? Okay. Your prediction is exactly that. What do you think is going to happen? So as the ice cube melts, what do you think will happen? You write that before you do the experiment. I'll know if you cheat and you do it afterwards because it won't read right, okay? It doesn't make any difference, but a prediction is just a guess, and we've talked about that. Your guess can be totally wrong. That's fine. Using your knowledge and understanding of science, explain why you think this would happen. So this comes from a chapter that we did, girls, the science behind it. And I want you to think about it. Can you explain to me why you think what's going to happen? Okay, variables. What things are you going to change? Okay, so what variable are you changing over time? That's a little hint. What are you measuring? So you're measuring whether the water comes out or not. And what things are you keeping constant? But what things are you not changing throughout the experiment that just stays the same from the start to the finish? How will you carry out a fair test? So how are you going to make sure that your results are accurate, that you did it right? What sort of things do you do to make sure that that happens? And I'll give you the title, girls, and let you go and find, I mean, you can do research on it. I can't stop you Googling. Nobody's stopping you doing that. All of that is available to you if you want. The method then, I want you to draw me a picture in the box and label it of all of the equipment that you used. Okay. And it's not going to be fancy equipment because you're at home, girls. So it's going to be a glass, it's going to be water, it's going to be an ice cube, it might be a paper cloth, it might be a timer. How are you going to lower it in? Some people are going to be fancy there and try to lower it in different ways. Some people are just going to try and plop it in, which won't work, so don't do that. Try and lower it in as carefully as you can, because otherwise you're going to spill out water just because you were a little bit too not delicate, if you will. Write out a step by step, and this is what I was saying to you all year, girls. Step 1, what did I do? Step 2, what did I do? Every little bit done and written out for me. Okay. Explain how you will measure, how you will make sure your results are reliable. How will you make sure you're accurate? Is there anything you could do to make sure that you are right at the end of this experiment? Is doing it once enough? Do you need to do it more times? What sort of information do you need to give me there? Okay. How are you going to present the data to me? So I've given you a table there. You don't need to fill it in. What I'm saying is maybe you could use something like that to give me results back so that it's easy for me to read. It asks you down here, girls, for a graph. Part B, for this experiment that we're doing this week, it's only a short thing. It's only supposed to take you the double class on Friday to do the experiment and write it up. So you don't need a graph for this one, but for the one coming forward with your home, for the end of year, you may need to draw a graph. Okay, or some of you might want to draw a graph to get those extra little marks. Using your data, describe any patterns in your results. So I would expect when you're doing it, you're going to realize to be reliable, I need to do it more than once. I'm going to do the experiment whatever amount of times, and you're going to use that results to form a pattern. So most of the time, so say I did it 10 times, nine times out of 10 this happened. So that's the pattern. The other one, the one that it didn't happen in, I must have made a mistake. Here are the mistakes I could have made. Using your knowledge then of science and one of the chapters, can you think what happened? And then you're going to evaluate to make sure your investigation was valid. So to make sure that you were as fair as you could, what did you do? What sort of things, what thoughts did you have to make it fair? And then comment on how reliable you think you were, and suggest if you were doing it again, how you might make it more accurate. So for example, if you're in the lab and you had all the equipment in the world available to you, how might you do this a different way to be more exact? What sort of things do you think was fair, wasn't fair? Okay. So what you need, girls, for this work, and I'm putting it up on Monday, but it's not to be done until Friday. So it's for Friday's double class, girls. You just need to have some way of making ice cubes. Okay, so if you have an ice cube tray at home, brilliant. If you have an ice bag, you can buy the bags and fill them with water. Excellent. Mammies do not need to go out here, and I hope mammies can hear me. You do not need to go out here buying anything, okay? If you don't have those things, there are other ways to make ice cubes. So a little sandwich bag, put the same amount of water into each one, tie them in the corner so they're at the bottom, and you'll make an ice cube, okay? Mammies do not need to be going out buying anything extra here. If you don't have a sandwich bag at home, you'll have maybe a little bit of cling film. You can do the same with cling film. Put 5 mils, 6 mils of water in, turn it, tie it so that the water doesn't leak, and freeze it, okay? Mammies don't need, mammies have enough to be doing without doing anything. This is just to check how you're filling out this form, okay? And then I can give you feedback on filling out the form. How you do the experiment, again, girls, I'm looking here for a diagram, and I'm looking for the write-up when it comes to your at the end. For the last 2 weeks, when you have 2 weeks to do the project and I give you your title, you might want to attach a video or pictures, something. You can do that. For this one, you don't need it. I just want this handwritten out. I mean, if you want to type it, you can type it. So if you have Word and laptops, by all means. If you don't, handwrite it. with the headings. It doesn't matter to me. Take pictures or attach it depending on which way you're doing it. So if you're doing it as a Word document, you can attach it. It's very easy for me to correct. If you're doing it the other way, just take pictures of what you've done and send it to me. And then I can have a look at them, girls, and come back maybe next week and say, look, everyone is doing this wrong. Maybe we need to talk a little bit more about that, and I'll give you a little video on it and we can discuss it. Again, let's talk about what your original aim is here, okay? So your original aim is here. Will the ice float and cause it to overflow, or will it just melt? So will it overflow or will it melt? Will the ice cube overflow or will it melt? You'll fill a glass completely with water, so it's full. Hot water, cold water, your choice. Put your ice cube in as gently as you can and allow it time to melt. And record, does water overflow? Or does the ice cube melt and simply stay in the glass? Okay, so what the things you need: a glass, ice cubes, and I've talked to you about how to make the ice cubes. If you don't have an ice cube tray, which I don't at home, there are lots of different ways of making ice cubes, okay? And things that you can do to make that fair. So you're thinking, what sort of things are important? Like, it would be okay to throw like an ice cube that's this size into the first one and this one that's into the second one. Is that fair? So how do I make the ice cubes the same size? Would it be fair to use hot water in the first experiment, but I boil the kettle, but in the next experiment use a cold water tap? There are things you're thinking about when you're doing the experiment and planning it and thinking. Okay, so I'll leave it to you, girls. Ask me questions throughout the week. This is due for the end of Friday's class. So that's Friday at 11 o'clock. Okay, and I'll talk to you then.